Welcome to this third episode of Basically Speaking. I am Pragyan, and with me, as always, is Professor Devinder Thapa. This is our third episode, so I'm very happy that we both have the energy to do this and the energy and motivation to do this. So how has been your experience so far?
I think it's a wonderful experience so far.
Definitely.
We are getting some mixed review. So mixed reviews, the music we need to get rid of.
Yeah. So we need to fire the guy who is doing the background music for us.
So the music is dominating our voice. So maybe from this episode, let's get rid of music. It was not in the full episode, even in the first and second episode.
Yeah.
But when I was making, because these short clips people are liking that also.
Yeah.
So when we are cutting some short clips.
Yeah.
So there I tried to make it more poetic and musical, and then it actually backfired.
Yeah. So to our viewers, I'd really like you to know that he's the man behind the video editing. He's the one who does all the video editing, and all the crazy cuts is because of him.
All the music he is doing.
I'm doing,
No, sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's a very joint effort. So.
And let's head back to the topic of today's episode.
So what kind of topic? Last episode was very sweaty, very hard. I think.
Now
what about today's episode?
Now I think we are more calm down and cool.
Okay.
We're not sweating, at least so far. So today's episode, it's going to be about argument and argumentative fallacies. And this topic is actually interesting because there was a recent controversy in Nepal where a politician in a high level position was embroiled in a scandal, and he was actually heading a media company, and it was later found out that the media company was sourcing its fund through illegal means, and there was a parliamentary committee which famous guy. So we'll not name him. I mean everybody who knows about this scandal might figure out who we are talking about. We're not naming him.
But at the same time, our purpose is not to actually blame someone. Or
committee was set up to investigate whether this politician how he was involved in this whole fiasco, this scandal, and they came up with a report where there were. So the conclusion and the argument of that report in itself became a bigger controversy. So it was like there were many parties. The people who were supporting the politician interpreted the argument and the conclusion of the report on their own basis. But the people who were against him, who think he is guilty in this issue, kind of interpreted the argument and the conclusion of that document, claiming that this guy is really guilty. So with that background, I was kind of interested in this topic of argument and how arguments are structured, how arguments have an impact in society, in our life. So let's begin with this the basic idea of an argument. So when we talk about argument, what do we mean?
So when you said that we are going to argue today, basically argument is like, Pragyan, what are you saying? No, I'm right because he said that. Right? Okay, maybe that's also argument, but perhaps philosophically, that's not an argument. That's more quarreling. So the purpose of argument, if you look into Greek philosophy or even the Eastern philosophers, is to reveal the truth, to figure out the truth together, right? You have some thesis, I have some antithesis. Together, actually, we try to reveal the truth. There's nothing about winning or losing or dominating. But more than that, I think is a very good context. I think that's the main reason why we wanted to discuss here, because if we look into social media nowadays, right? Social media is playing a very important role in creating this kind of conflict, contradictions when they put certain clip of some debate or discussion, and then people actually amplify that. And usually audience doesn't know what's right, what's wrong, how to actually evaluate the truth of that argument, right? So that's where we need a deeper discussion on what is argument. It's smart in articulating.
Yeah.
That's what happened with this report, I think, because it becomes ambiguous, and then the interpretation goes in both ways.
Yeah.
And the people are very confused. So their decision is not based on the actual fact and the argument. It's based on the emotions and all other things, right? Okay. So that's what we are going to explore today.
Yeah. So when it comes to argument, what is an argument? So what are its elements? So when we say this is an argument, so what is an argument and what is not an argument?
Yeah. So arguments can be understood from different perspectives, right? If you read Dale Carnegie book, like How to Win Friends and Influence People, he will say never argue with others because you will never win in an argument, right? Okay. You feel like I won in argument, but no, you are actually making an enemy, right? Because nobody wants to be defeated in their argument. And he gives a very interesting example. He said there was a serial killer. So he used to kill the people by, what do you call it? Slit.
Yeah. Slitting someone's throat.
Yes. But he used to justify. He never said that I was wrong. And maybe you have seen the serial killer. They never say that I'm wrong, right? Their argument is, I was doing this to actually, so that the people get rid of this suffering. Deductive reasoning, one kind of argument, right? So you go from the universal truth or some theory, and then you apply to some particular entity, and then you come up with the conclusion. So that's a deductive argument.
So arguments has two parts, premises and conclusion. Okay.
So the idea is your premises should be true, and then it should lead to the true conclusion.
Okay.
So if it's a deductive argument, then your premises should always lead to the true conclusion.
Okay.
Right? That's the deductive argument.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, another one is inductive. So they said, no, here something is wrong with the premises, because we don't know. Maybe there might be a black swan or red swan, a yellow swan, right? So what they do is then they put some condition. In the inductive one, almost most of the swan are white. X is a swan, therefore X is white.
Okay, so the almost is the condition,
almost.
not so all, but almost.
No, it's like there's a probability that it might be wrong.
Okay.
So that's the inductive reasoning. So if you see deductive and inductive, they look in structure very similar, but the difference is one is very certain, and then very certain. How can something be very certain? I mean, one is certain, and then the other one is probability.
Yeah, probable.
That's the difference of deductive and inductive
arguments. Okay.
But they both structurally they're same. I mean, you have to have some premises and other premises, and then conclusion.
Okay. Yeah. So far we've discussed that an argument is made up of premises and conclusion. So a conclusion must follow logical premises. So, but what about if there are there are premises and there are conclusion? Does it make an argument in itself, or is it like I'm talking about what makes something a good argument, something a bad argument?
So here this is right. If an argument can be structurally valid, that's a formal. You can say formal validation, right? So formally, one argument will be valid if it has a premises and then it leads to the conclusion, right? Yeah. So if I say, but you see the challenge here. If I say, stones don't fly, right? Devinder don't fly. And therefore, Devinder is a stone.
Yeah. So it follows a premise. It follows. It has a conclusion.
You see,
right?
the premises are true because stone doesn't fly. It's true. Devinder don't fly. It's true. But if you look into the conclusion. Therefore, Devinder is stone. Yeah. So there is some.
We don't know yet. Maybe so we need some research to maybe figure out if you're a stone or a human.
So you see, structurally, formally, it is correct.
Yeah.
It is valid.
It has the elements. It has premise.
It has right.
So not just it doesn't. So if it appears as an argument, doesn't mean that it is an argument, right?
So as I said, formally, structurally, it can be valid.
Yeah.
Now we figure out that no, formally it is correct, but it is not sound. So there's a difference between valid argument and sound argument.
Okay.
Right. So it is no sound because then you look at because stone doesn't fly, Devinder doesn't fly, but the characteristics of stone and Devinder is different.
Different
things. Human and there is non-human. So we cannot compare these things, right?
Okay.
So you look into this kind of comparison, content analysis. You can say. So content should also be true.
Okay.
Then it becomes sound, right? So that's the idea.
So when you also mention that we do these things like we argue or like our arguments, although they appear to look like arguments, might not be sound arguments. So can you give us, just for our audience, some examples where we do these kind of mistakes in everyday?
Everyday is now. The fallacies we talk right now, it was there is difference between logical fallacies. Logical is, one is formal when we're talking about structure, and informal when we are talking about this sound. It's not sound, right?
It's not sound.
And then if you look into day-to-day argument, then we can call it in bigger term argumentative fallacies. Right?
So by fallacies, what do we mean?
Fallacies means you present some statement that sounds true, but it is not.
Not true. Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of deceiving.
Okay, it's misleading kind
misleading,
of.
Okay. So that's a fallacy. So the art of deception, you can say that. But it looks like true. If you see the first argument, when I say stone don't fly, Devinder don't fly, therefore Devinder is stone. So you can actually fool, right? So that's the idea of fallacies. Now you were asking about day-to-day.
Yeah.
Argumentative fallacies, right? I will refer to the same example you have given about this politician.
The controversy.
Yeah. So if you see this report, because two parties can have equally valid argument, right? It means this report itself is has ambiguity. There's a fallacy of ambiguity. When your argument is actually going in two directions, so there's ambiguity fallacy. And this kind of ambiguity is mainly done in politics.
Yeah,
right?
a kind of creating confusion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you throw some statement and you can make your own decision based on that. So it's not very clear.
Yeah.
So you just say, if I say, Pragyan is bright person.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't explain. I mean, what do you mean by bright, right?
Yeah.
So someone will say maybe bright in intelligence. Someone might say, maybe smiley, or someone might, if you're.
Maybe maybe electricity passes through my body, so I am bright.
And someone
in anything.
Anything. It's an ambiguity.
Ambiguity.
So that's called the ambiguity. So it makes some sentence or statement ambiguous, and then people can make any kind of interpretation of it. And that's what's happening with this report, right? Now here we are not saying that who is right, who is wrong, but we are just trying to figure out the argumentative fallacies. Right? So let's say the report says this person is not directly engaged in bringing money into the company, media company, right? However, the money came from the source which was illegal. I mean, it's not like stealing or anything, but they bring the money from the cooperative society, and cooperative money cannot be invested in the business houses.
Corporate businesses,
businesses, right? So what they did is, that was the mistake. So this money came over here, And then when it came here, so this guy was actually 15% shareholder and
the
also
politician,
managing director at the time, right? The politician that we were talking about. So the report says, yes, there's no evidence of directly bringing money. However, when the money came into the company, this person actually used that money.
Okay.
Right. Therefore, he should be inquired by the authorities.
Yeah, investigation
should be done about this thing, right? So now this person, politician, what he's saying is, no, you see, they already said I was not directly engaged.
Yeah.
That part is just going into the public.
Okay.
Right? What he's saying is, they said I was not directly engaged, so I am actually not guilty of this thing.
Okay, so then him not being engaged became a premise to conclude that he was innocent. Yeah.
Now, other part, what they're saying is, no. It is the conclusion that you have to read.
Yeah.
Right? They are making this judgment without reading the conclusion. And in the conclusion, we have clearly stated, it is sentences like this. He is not directly involved. However, when the money came into the organization, he was responsible for using that for all the expenses.
Okay.
So therefore, he should be investigated for this illegal act. So you see, it's a very ambiguity.
Yep.
And now this person says, there's no evidence of me directly engaged in that one. So that's called the fallacy of ignorance.
Okay. So it's a type of argumentative.
Yeah, it's an argumentative fallacy.
Yeah.
The fallacy is because you are using that part, not the full report, right? And then you are saying, because there is no evidence. And you cannot prove, because the report also says that we haven't seen. So when you don't find any proof, then you use that as an argument to say that you are innocent.
Yeah.
That's known as the fallacy of ignorance.
Yeah.
Want to add something?
Yeah, I think these are just some examples where, like we say, these controversial things and about how politicians might kind of use these fallacies. But do you think these fallacies are, the people who are putting these fallacies in public, they are conscious of, or they're consciously putting this fallacy, or do you think they believe this is the truth? Maybe this is a very psychological question, but
actually that's because someone was saying the difference between liar and bullshitter is that liar knows that I am intentionally lying it because they know the truth and they intentionally create those fallacies, right? The bullshitter, they don't know that they're lying. They think this is the truth. So their whatever this mental algorithm is built in that way. So that, or maybe any politicians who randomly say that this is what the truth is, this is what I did, and this is I'm innocent, whatever. That's they're under delusion and they don't actually accept what they did. So they are the bullshitters. So fallacies, again, as I said, can be intentionally created, or sometimes, most of the time, maybe it's also created by knowing that maybe I am actually telling the truth. That we cannot say who is right or wrong, but what we can say is this is the argumentative fallacies. We can see at least in this case, right? Ambiguity, ignorance of appeal to ignorance. And there's another that's called the whataboutism.
Whataboutism.
Right? So the idea is, okay, you're just inquiring about me. Our leader, the supporter will say, you're just focusing on this guy. What about others? They have also done a lot of corruptions. What do you look about this? Those other X, Y, right?
So you're deviating the attention from the main issue to another thing.
That's also known as red herring.
Red herring.
So I figure out actually herring is a fish.
Okay.
So the idea was when you're maybe it's just a folk myth or something. So when people used to go for hunting, they used to have these hunter dogs, and then they use this herring smell.
Okay.
So that dog doesn't go here and there,
Okay.
So the idea is they used to bring this dog with them through this fish smell.
Okay.
So the idea is if dog want to go that side, and then you bring the dog this side.
Okay.
Through this smell. So this diverting,
Okay.
Not about this.
So, so you said these statements given by the politician and his supporters, and also the opposite party. These are the examples of some fallacies. But what are other common fallacies? Argumentative fallacies.
I think because I just say fallacies from of this person, but I would like to say the fallacies of the oppositions.
Okay.
It's also like there's a fallacy of hasty generalization.
Hasty generalization.
Right?
Okay.
So because he was associated with this whatever media house, and then the owner of this media house was a wrong guy, right? He was the actual culprit. Therefore, this person is also guilty of being associated with that.
Okay, guilty by association.
Guilty by association.
Okay.
Yes. That's another fallacy.
Okay.
Right? And sometimes they will say, again, it's a kind of guilty by association. They'll say, oh, this person already had some issue with the passport and then citizenship. So actually, therefore, you see, there's a very high possibility he has associated with this also.
So, okay.
That's also a faulty association.
One kind of...
It's a fallacy of wrong association.
Yeah.
You cannot associate with other thing he did. So then suddenly the argument or the debate, as I told you, you can see in the social media, they are just full of craps. I mean, they're just not talking about the actual issue, but is completely diverting
many other things.
Maybe you have heard this O.J. Simpson case in US. You know that the murder case?
Yeah, famous murder case.
Completely turned into something else.
Yeah.
That's also kind of red herrings. Right?
Is like, I would also say, like, for example, there's also this issue of stereotyping people, right? We say, okay, this person might be guilty because he belongs to a particular community or a particular race, or he comes from a particular class. And I think these are things that are like commonsensical ways of, which is not good. But these are something I think maybe we do it in a very unconscious way, and the way we are conditioned by these stereotypes.
Of course, it's called the genetic fallacy.
Okay, so there's another fallacy.
It's called genetic fallacy because you were telling me some interesting example of the singer, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe we can share. This has some kind of that stereotypical or genetic fallacy because someone is from that.
So there was this video I watched where this music video, Nepali music video, was gaining a bit of backlash from a particular community because one of the character was portrayed or belonged to this community, and
some
minority community, and I think the storyline was like the girl refuses to marry this person because he's unemployed. But at the same time, when she is refusing this person, she mentions that you are unemployed and you belong to this community. So I was kind of like kind of surprised by this kind of way of portraying someone like you are unemployed, and also because you are from this community, so I don't want you.
So this is so unconsciously done because we are not aware about it, right? So we do it just we think this is how the things are. But then if you reflect carefully, look critically, then you will find there's some fallacies out here, right? So I will tell you my own story. When at the beginning, when I was not a professor.
Yeah.
So they used to always ask, "Are you in Gorkha?"
Yeah.
Right? I mean, army. It's a British
Yeah.
army, because people like me, they just go to Gorkha army.
Yeah.
So that's also a genetic fallacy.
Yeah.
By looking at your genetics, and then you make some judgment about that.
Some generalization, which are,
and it comes in the argument as well. These are very simple examples, but if you look, such arguments also go into the real debates also. So you're debating, and suddenly you start you forget about the actual topic, and then you start talking about the other stuff, genetic fallacy or red herrings, or this appeal to ignorance.
So it is something I think we also need to unlearn these kind of things that we do unconsciously, consciously. So I think this is something I think we encounter in everyday conversation.
We do that actually. We just do it. We need to be very careful. Right? So if someone say, it seems like technology will lead to development. I mean, it's
a fallacy.
It's a fallacy.
Technology fallacy.
It's called the hasty generalization. So if you say young people are better politicians, so young people should come and rule, because then they will actually work better for the country. It's a hasty generalization.
They become they will be good politicians. Why? Because they are young, or
exactly. So it's not like because someone is young so become a better politician. There's no actually evidence of that, right? So if you see carefully, then you say no. To become a better politician, it's not just age. You need the other political wisdoms, right? So that's, we make most of the time this hasty generalization. Right?
Also, conversely, when people say, "Okay, this guy is old, mature, and he will be a good politician," is that also a fallacy?
That's also a fallacy. Of course, that's also a fallacy, because it's not just one factor that leads to someone good or bad. So that's called the hasty generalization from one instance to the bigger. And then the case of this minority, singer, that's goes from bigger, the group level, to the particular instance. As I said, when people used to see me at the beginning, they say, "Are you Gorkha army?" Because they see many people like me in the army, and then they just also did the conclusion that, okay, maybe this person also belongs to the same army. So these are called fallacy by division. By division is sometimes you go from one instance to the bigger group, or from group to the one.
So you touched upon this topic that not only in day-to-day life, or like in more media and news, these things are also prevalent in academia. So
of course,
So how is it like? Is it the same arguments in a different in an academic language? We are presenting academic fallacies in our research, in our work, or
it happens, of course, and we now you were asking about people do it unintentionally or intentionally.
Okay.
I think in academia most of the time we do it intentionally. Sorry for that. I'm now hasty generalization.
Exactly.
You see the fallacies in our own argument. It happens. There's something called a strawman fallacy. Strawman, right? The argument. When you try to lower the position of your opponent by bringing something more important, or saying that, when people say that we should not actually we should reduce the carbon emission, and someone will say, "Oh, what you're saying is we should not use car from tomorrow. So you want us to use public bus transportation? Where is the public buses? Is it enough?" You see, suddenly this environmental sustainability goes to the use of car. That's called the strawman.
So you are just fallacy. So in a way you are just nitpicking things, and then you are attacking only those aspects, but you are not kind of taking account of the whole picture.
It comes from what do you call it when you put this kind of in the field?
Scarecrow?
A scarecrow
Yeah.
to scare the crow in the field.
Yeah.
So it's not the actual person, but you have a straw man
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we talked a lot about how argumentative fallacies is prevalent in everyday life and then academia and media. So what should we do then? I mean, to kind of challenge these argumentative fallacies, or like be aware or be careful that we are not engaging in kind of presenting these kind of fallacies.
No. One reason I said, it's very difficult in day to day when I'm making jokes with my friend, with my family, with my dear one. There you should not bring this kind of argument, right? As the Gary Spence, very great argumenter, he said, with your dear one, you should lose to win the argument.
Okay.
Never try to prove those things,
Even if they have argumentative fallacies, you don't need to
don't
point them
go
out.
to the fallacies.
Yeah.
So say just lose it, so that you will never. It's like there was a dialogue from Shahrukh Khan, right?
Yeah.
Har kar bhi jeetne wale ko
Yeah.
bajigar kehte
So
hain.
you win when you lose, right?
You win when you lose.
Okay.
So the idea what you were asking is, we need to be careful when we are listening to politicians or listening to this kind of legal, ethical, even academic. We should not trust. There is a fallacy called appeal to authority. So when someone is doing a research and then you ask, but why did you use this theory? And then instead of giving the logical answer, sometimes they say, because this person has won the Nobel Prize, right?
Yeah.
Or the real incidents I'll tell you sometimes when someone asks PhD students, and why did you use this theory? Because my supervisor said that.
Yeah.
Right? So these are called the appeal to authority. And this is argumentative fallacies. Then we need to be aware what kind of fallacies can happen. So that we will be more critical before making any judgment. Right? We need to listen to both sides and then use your own critical thinking. Then you make any kind of views or justifications, right? Or take any decisions. So we should not just believe anything in haste because he's a very nice guy, because I like Pragyan, therefore whatever he say is true. Okay, that doesn't make any sense, right?
What kind of fallacy is that?
That's an appeal to emotion.
Okay, or like say, I support this political party because my parents have been supporting it for a long time. So that doesn't make it a strong reason enough to support a party or support something.
Exactly. Right? So it's and that's what happens when you bring some fallacies into action. It will reveal itself anyhow, right? Because you cannot hide the truth. Truth will reveal itself. But the idea is, if we are already aware about these things, and then we somehow try to mitigate this kind of mistakes.
So what do you suggest to kind of be aware of these argumentative fallacies? What's a good way to keep yourself informed? Is like reading or experiencing, or what is your way to kind of like build our capacity to become more critical thinkers, good argumenters, or like arguers?
One of the, I forget the name of the philosopher, but what he said.
It's always a he, philosopher. It's always a he.
I think it's I think it is a Richard Feynman or some philosopher, I don't know. But what they said is, if something doesn't fit into your common sense, the first acid test is, if someone is making some argument, right, and then it doesn't fit in your common sense, then you should be very careful. Then you have to actually go and look at the sources and retrace those arguments and then look from different perspectives, right? So that's the first thing. If it doesn't fit your common sense, then there is something something
Wrong,
is wrong
yeah,
with that.
Mhm.
Right?
But sometimes common sense can also fail us, right?
That exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what Daniel Kahneman will
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
Most of the time, the
Yeah.
system 1 and system 2 thinking, and then we use system 1, which is intuitive, and then intuition is actually based on what information is available or
yeah.
accessible.
Mhm.
But now you're putting me into trouble. But I think the first is the common sense, and then the second is look into the source. Right?
Yeah.
A source doesn't mean as, otherwise we'll get into the fallacy of if we say smoking cigarette is good because the superstar was actually doing advertisement for that. Not that kind of source.
Okay.
Right? Source of the information, where does this information coming from? So I heard there was some citations. You were telling about this case. Can you
Which
know,
one?
some case
We
in
talked
US who
about-
cited ChatGPT or something, and then they figure out this case was actually not existing.
Yeah, I think there was
Yeah.
when ChatGPT just arrived. I think someone in the US, I think a lawyer in the US,
Yeah.
kind of used ChatGPT to ask some evidence of case. Like he was fighting on behalf of his client, and then he wanted some cases in support to kind of make it evident that his strong argument that his client was innocent, and ChatGPT provided different examples of cases which he could use as evidence, and then he presented that in front of a court. But later on, when they kind of evaluated these examples he was giving, they found out these were not existent. These were non-existent. Just made up by ChatGPT. Yeah.
It's just looking at the source. That's what, as a researcher, we have to be very careful, especially for the new students. So don't completely trust ChatGPT because it provides so many references, sources that are not valid.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? That's another way of actually looking where does this information coming from, right? And then, as I said, we have to look into the premises and other minor premises and the conclusion, right? So if sometimes this is the mistakes, because your premises should be true. And then your conclusion should be true. Sometimes what happens, your premises is true, but your conclusion is false.
Yeah.
The first case I said, the stone and then Devinder, right? Sometimes your conclusion may be true, but premises is false.
Yeah.
Right? So mainly, when we use the fallacy of emotion authority, so we come up with like, because someone says that, so this is this, therefore this should not. We should not do this, right? So we have to look into those premises.
Okay. Yeah.
Those are some
tricks.
Some very easy tricks.
Yeah.
Not the easy, but as I said.
So, I thought argumentative fallacies and argument was a topic that we can cover in an episode. But I think each argumentative fallacy can have its own episode.
Of course, yeah, it can have its own episode.
Yeah.
But we are just touching some instance of
some
those
common
mistakes we do. And
yeah.
then I think the whole idea is, at least if we are aware about this kind of fallacies happens in the debates, we also make that kind of fallacies, right? And I have to be very careful because I keep on posting on social media and then how people actually interpret that.
Or react to that, yeah.
Because that's, we need to be very careful with that.
Exactly.
So academics, because we do a lot of argumentations all the time, right? Every day. So we have to be careful when we are making any statement or any argument. So we should be careful about the fallacies ourselves.
Yeah.
Then we'll make less mistakes when we put our arguments, right?
Yeah, we should not be scared to present our arguments, but make sure that our arguments are sound.
Sound. It should not be based on appeal to authority, appeal to emotions. When we are talking about the argument, and then to bring the truth, science, or the philosophy, right? Then we have to follow some standard rules.
So I think on that note, we can at least conclude. We had a lot of premises, so I think we can conclude on a good note that this episode ends here. And anything you want to add?
I'm pretty sure we have made a lot of argumentative fallacies in our own arguments.
Yeah.
So please go ahead and then destroy our arguments.
Yeah.
You're welcome, and then keep on watching.
Basically
speaking.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.